Hoping to get into more premium price points with your web design services? Past Square Secrets business student Emily has been there and is coming back on the channel today for the second time to share exactly what she found goes into being able to charge 10x your prices confidently. Hint, it has a lot to do with your mindset. I'll let Emily take it away from here. Okay, Emily, tell me about what we all want to hear, and that is talk about the identity shifts that we need to make in order to be able to attract these premium clients that we all want.
I think when it comes to attracting premium clients, we tend to attract similar, like people who have similar qualities as us, or similar like frequencies in a way. And so when you're starting out and say you come from an employee mindset or just came out of like a 9-to-5 job, you're still thinking in that way. And I found the clients I was attracting at the start were very like of a scarcity mindset, or also of that kind of like 9-to-5 employee mindset, or treated me like an employee. Like, do this, how many hours are you working? Like, you know, so that was really interesting to then, as I grew in my mindset and shifted in my identity towards more of like a business owner, not going by time value so much, I started to attract clients who were also of that kind of mindset and just valued my work as it was, valued the way I think. So when it comes to attracting premium clients, you also have to think like, how are they thinking? And are you actually thinking in the way that they're thinking, right? And I think what really helped me was changing my environment. So when I first started, I was surrounded by people who were in a 9-to-5, very traditional job. And so that was my input. And I just assumed that everybody thinks that way, right? And as I morphed into surrounding myself with more freelancers, with more like digital nomads, decided to change a little bit. And then again, this year and last year, I leveled a little bit more, surrounding myself with people who had like massive businesses. And the way they thought was so different. And that really, like that input shifted the way I operated and the way I worked in my business. And I suddenly started to attract like bigger clients, like way bigger clients. And I think a lot of it has to do with the people you surround yourself with, because you really become those people that you surround yourself with. And so from a practical standpoint, surround yourself with people of those premium clients that you actually want to attract. Get really like, be curious, like how are they thinking? You know, how do they value their time? Because they value different things to, you know, old you. They don't value just money, they value their time, right? And so then you start to shift your offerings. You start to refine your offerings in a way that really aligns with what it is that they actually want. Yeah, if that makes sense.
I totally believe it. Interestingly, as I've joined different, gone to events or been at masterminds or whatever, and you start meeting these people with very different ideas of what money is really. And I met a woman who was charging $100,000 for coaching, and I just thought, that's bananas. But no, for her and her clients, that is totally reasonable and the best money they've ever spent. And I was like, okay. So every time, like there is a wide variety of different levels. If someone's watching this, however, and they're like, okay, well, I know you digital nomad and run your business as you travel the world and everything. And so you get to meet sort of like, you know, more freelancers and other people and everything. But for someone who's, okay, I'm at home, I'm not traveling the world, I'm not hanging out in Bali and Mexico or whatever, or Portugal, how would you suggest that they start to get these contacts, if that makes sense, or start to be around these people so they can start to understand how they think?
So two things, online communities is one. So being part of like masterminds or courses that have like a really active group in them, but not people who are at the same level in the same industry, if you know what I mean. You really want a variety. Otherwise you kind of just acknowledge each other as like, you know, where you're at. And it's like, your problem is my problem. And then you're not really like growing in a way, right? So I would even say like the best is when you're investing in a mastermind that's like kind of 2 steps ahead of where you are. And you're in that room with people online, and maybe they do 1 or 2 retreats a year. You go and you actually meet people. I think that's really amazing. In your local neighborhood, depending on where you are again, because I think location really matters. Like when I was in the German countryside, I really struggled. Like I tried. I couldn't really find people my sort of vibe. And then now being in Lisbon, it's everywhere. I go to a cafe, I go to, I don't know, a restaurant, and I meet someone interesting, have a conversation. No, they run their own business, right? And so I'd say even just like once or twice a year, spend a month in a place that's full of these kind of people that you want to attract, and then just see it as an investment in that like 1 month, and then see what comes out of it, make connections. Cool. Yeah.
Very good. Okay, love that. So talk to me about how specifically did you develop the mindset of someone who is able to charge premium prices, and what work exactly did you need to do in order to make that happen?
I think firstly, we also have to like define what is a premium price, because for some people it might be like 3K, for some people it might be like 5, 6. For other people, it's
some people it might be 100.
Exactly. For some people, it's like, oh, you're only charging 10K. That's nothing. We do 50K, and you're like, oh, okay. So I think that's all. Premium is also relative. I think from a relativity standpoint, let's say anything that's 2x what you're currently doing might feel premium to you, right? So let's say like, how can you start charging prices that are 2 or 3x what you're currently charging, and how to get there. From a practical standpoint, I think it's really important to think about, are they going to get at least 5x the return on their investment in some way? Because it's not just about throwing a number out into the wind, right? It's not just about creating a pretty design and having it out there. It's like, maybe you have to upskill yourself in SEO, maybe you have to upskill yourself in the way you think, or familiarize yourself with e-commerce, and then be able to like charge more. I feel like in terms of charging more or charging premium, there's always an expectation attached to that. And it's not just about the doing, it's about the thinking, it's about adding so much more value in a way that's not always correlated with time. It's actually correlated with experience. And then from the maybe like energetics or identity side, when you drop a number that's like 2-3x what you're used to, let's say you're used to like 2,000, and suddenly you've got this project and it's going to be like 10,000. You like say it on the call, you're like, it's going to be 10. And you're like, you can't say it, right? And if you can't say it on the call, or you can't like be confident in your number, they're going to feel it, and they're probably going to like, try to barter you down or not take you seriously. So sometimes what I think is really helpful is having somebody to practice mock calls with, and feeling into saying the number, because sometimes we don't feel safe saying the number, right? Let's say you're saying like, oh, this project, amazing, for clients like you and projects like these is going to be 10,000 euros. And for a lot of people, A, they don't say it enough, B, subconsciously in their body it feels unsafe to say that number, because they feel like they're going to be rejected, right? And they don't want to be rejected. And so I think it's worth practicing and then being rejected. And then the other side of that is just feeling safe to receive a project of that amount, right? Feeling that abundance, and just practice feeling safe in that, and stretch it out to 100K. Imagine this project was 100K, can you hold that? And then coming back down to 10K, it feels so much easier, right? And you're just kind of like energetically doing weights. Yeah.
Talk to me about the energetically doing weights aspect. I think this is a really interesting example.
So I learned this from one of my business mentors. it. It's like, think of if you go to a gym and you're like, okay, I want to lift 100 kgs. That's like saying I want to make 100k. If you haven't really done weights before, your first time at the gym, you know, you go and you're like, I'm going to smash 100 kgs. It's like, you're absolutely not going to, and you will probably like, you know, rip yourself apart. And it's like people who win the lottery, like it comes, like maybe they get $1 million, but they don't feel safe holding it. And so what happens is they just let it all go, right? And so the analogy of doing weights is you start with 10 kgs and you go 20, 30, 40. And every time you train your muscle, you train your body to hold that amount energetically, because money in a way is energy, right? And most of us who, especially if we've done like a 9-to-5 job, we have a very consistent, we're always at like 5, 10 kgs, right? We never really train for 50 or 60. And so in a way you have to start training yourself. And the way sometimes I do is I just like meditate and I just feel into, I kind of imagine this as like a ball and it grows. And let's say you're at 10k, maybe you're here, what's 100k feel like it's here, and then you kind of stretch out to how heavy that feels, and it does feel heavy, and then you snap back to where you are now and you're like, oh, I feel like you can do it. And so it's just like recalibrating your body, your nervous system actually is the better word. It's like recalibrating your nervous system to hold a larger amount of money, because it doesn't feel safe for most people to hold that much. And so we subconsciously actually reject opportunities to make more. So yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Talk to me specifically when it comes to like marketing and sales. How do you feel at the beginning, or how did you feel at the beginning of doing sales and marketing? And how has that changed over time as you've up-leveled in your pricing and gone on to more premium projects?
I hated marketing sales so much.
Why did you hate it? I'm curious.
Good question. I hated it because it felt aggressive. Like to, like, you know, tell people you should work with me. Or it just felt really like, maybe it was also my connotation with like the bro sales, like sleazy sales and marketing. And then also everybody hating sales and marketing, you know, everyone's like, oh, fucking salesman, or I'm always feeling like I'm marketed to. And I was like, oh, I just really don't want to add to that, right? And I was kind of hoping that if I did good work, people would just come to me. So I started doing it, and I started just like kind of looking to other people, like how do they do it, and like trying to copy them. Like, oh, if it's working for them, it must be working for a reason, so let's just copy. And it always felt really misaligned to me. And I would say it wasn't until this year that it started to finally feel aligned for me, and I stopped looking at what other people are doing. And maybe the biggest shift in mindset for sales and marketing is that sales is service. You're really selling to somebody who actually has a problem, and you're wanting to solve that problem. And I think instead of, okay, so actually no, there's so many massive shifts. One is like, don't try to convert, try to connect. And oftentimes we're writing sales copy or we're writing Instagram captions to convert people instead of connecting. And we think that we have to be really like bro salesy, but really what sales is all about is just connecting with a person, listening empathetically, right? What is your problem? Understanding their problem, and then trying to solve their problem. And if you're not the person that's right to solve their problem, then you just redirect them somewhere else, right? I mean, I think in a way, if you rephrase sales as just helping people, and I love sales. I love hopping on sales call, and I don't hop on the sales call feeling like I have to convert this person into a client. I'm just like, oh, I'm just so honored that you feel like I can help you, and I will try to help you. And then I just try to connect. And it feels great. And it feels very aligned with like how I want to operate in this world and in business as a female creative as well.
Totally. Yeah. Tell me about, okay, so you said at the beginning you were looking at other people, you were sort of like, okay, well, I need to do my marketing the way that they're doing their marketing. And then you realized at some point there was some other method. How do you do your marketing in a way that actually feels like Emily?
Or
like what changed, if that makes sense,
from
before to now?
Well, it just wasn't working, first of all. Yeah. And I was trying to put a filter on everything that I was saying. Like everything had to be perfect and well written in that sense. Like it had to sound professional and it had to be in this particular way. It has to look beautiful. And then at some point in time, I was like, this is not working. I'm just gonna say and write whatever I want to write. And let's just see what happened. And so I started writing about things that I actually wanted to write about. And things like mindset, things like, I don't know, life analogies, a little bit of like spirituality woven into business as well. And I got so much amazing feedback. And I think people feel it when you're genuinely passionate and excited about something that you're writing. People feel it and they feel connected to you. And that does so much. So I think from that standpoint, just letting myself write about the things I actually want to write about and not be so perfectionistic, just taking off that filter because that actually repels people.
Yep. It's a funny story. We actually had one time someone copy my website, literally like word for word. And got in touch with them to be like, not cool. And then I went back to that same website a few months later. It was so much better because it was actually them. And they like, from knowing like, being like, oh no, you can't copy word for word and like every single thing, they then had to go back and actually write what they wanted to write. And it was genuinely so much better for their business. And we're like, well, that's great.
No, exactly. I also had, when I first started, there were a few people I found really inspiring and I loved the way that they were writing. I loved the way that they were doing their graphics. And so I very closely sort of like, not copied, but like sort of put my own spin to it. One person was like, oh, I feel like you're mimicking my social media posts or just the way I'm doing things like too closely. And I was like, oh, that was such a wake up call to me. Like, maybe we are. And what is it that, you know, we actually want to post about? Are we just doing this because it feels safe?
Okay, so making, let's say, 2K a month, and maybe I want to make 10K a month, for example, but I'm maybe energetically rejecting this because I don't feel subconsciously safe to charge that amount of money. Tell me about how you would suggest someone like work through that sort of step by step.
I think if you're at 2K and you want to start charging 10K, to not take that leap immediately, because if you were to, the next proposal, you're going to drop a 10K, it's like going from lifting 2 kg weights to like 100 kg weights or something, right? From a practical standpoint, I would recommend either hiring a business mentor or having somebody you can do mock sales calls with and just do a few of those sales calls. I would also recommend finding people who would be of that caliber of investing 10K into a website and genuinely asking them questions like, what do you value? Like, you know, why is a website even valuable to you? Because actually for a lot of businesses who do millions, website doesn't bring them the most traffic, not always, right? And so then what is it that they actually want their website to do? What is the value there? And can you speak to that? Because it's very different to then somebody who's starting off and it's a 2K website, so that the entire value system is back to front. And then what would an ideal project look like for them? Because let's say they're a CEO running $1 million company and you want to charge 10K for this, they probably don't even want to be involved. So you might even have to change your entire process, because 2K clients are like, I want to be involved at every touch point and know everything and have 5 feedback calls. And the 10K clients like, just do it, talk to my team, I want zero involvement. I give you the go ahead. I trust you, right?
Yeah.
But to
So
get
true.
to that trust, but to get to that trust, that lead time takes way longer. You have to really prove yourself. You have to be really trustworthy. And I find bigger clients like that, they hire based on values, like similar value sets. And if they like you as a person, can they trust you as a person? And it helps if there's another mutual connection in there as well. So the way they hire is completely different to the way a 2K client would hire. So they
I totally agree.
really get into that mindset.
Especially the I don't even want to be involved and you just do it. It's like they have so many things going on that they actually are like, if they trust your portfolio and they're like, this is my inspiration, go make something, and then go like in terms of actual like day-to-day figuring out the whatever, talk to the team. That is fully true. So yeah.
And you just have to like not take it personally. It's not that they don't want to talk to you. But also then if you really like having a lot of touch points, maybe they're not your clients.
Yeah.
And then it's okay to have maybe more small clients and a few bigger ones, because they also come with their own sets of problems. Yeah.
That reminds me of a story, actually. So when I wanted to get into this master's degree, this is years and years ago, but I wanted to get into a master's degree. I wanted to get it on full ride. I wanted to get it in the US, which if you're an international student in the US is unbelievably expensive. Like, so crazy.
Cool.
And so I heard that there was these positions that you could get at universities that would then basically give you a full ride. And so I realized, I knew that the way you get things is to know people, but I didn't know anyone in the US and I didn't know anyone at these schools I wanted to go to. So I was like, you know what? I gotta find a way to get to know someone. Like, just because I don't know someone doesn't mean I can't solve that problem. That's a problem I can solve. So I figured out who the person was who seemed to probably be the one to make the decision of which person to hire for this certain role at the university. And I checked through the entire website, read everything which I could on this degree, and then figured out, okay, what is not mentioned, which I would like to know. Because if I just ask questions, if I call up and get to know this person and ask questions which are already on the website, they're just going to think, well, this person's wasting my time and clearly isn't that, doesn't have very good attention to detail or anything. So what I did instead was I went on the website, read literally everything I could about this degree and everything, and then I wrote out questions of what, I would like to know, but that wasn't already some sort of information online or something I could find myself. I then emailed, asked to do a call to talk about the degree program, and then just literally on that call, my goal was to ask questions. My goal was probably even more just to shoot the breeze and get to know this person and ask about their kids and their family and their life and everything and try to find a connection point with them. And I got the position, I got a degree on full ride, I got to know someone because I didn't know anyone, but I was like, okay, this is the way that I'm gonna get this to set myself apart. So I need to get to know this person who's making the decision. So that's what I did.
Guys, you did so much from that. Just
yeah.
So actually, you touched on a really good point that I missed out earlier, which is asking questions. I think, say in a sales call sort of position, if you're working with somebody and you wanna, ask a premium package for that, a lot of times people feel the need to justify why they're worth 10K, or for example, and they start blabbing on about all these things, how amazing the processes are, how much code they know, or trying to just justify it, or not show off, but fluff themselves up. And I think sometimes what actually works is the opposite, is not talking so much about yourself, and just asking questions and being genuinely curious about them and their business and what their goals are, and get them almost to sell themselves to you, why they want to work with you. And I think, and then finding that connection point. So at the end of the day, I think good sales is actually just asking good questions, not generic questions, like really good questions.
Yep. I agree. I fully agree. I learned that actually. I also worked at a sports store in high school, and I was in sales, and I also, I liked it and I didn't like it in different ways. But anyways, one of the things that we learned there was to ask questions. So when someone comes in and they want to buy a running shoe and there's literally 200 running shoes on the wall and you need to find the right running shoe for them, instead of being like, you need this one, it's like, start asking questions, start figuring out who they are, when they use this shoe, all these different things. And then you can also, from the fact that you've just asked questions, they trust your recommendation more because they think you actually paid attention, as opposed to you need that one. Why? Because it's the most popular. Well, I don't know if I want the most popular shoe. I just want the shoe that works for this scenario that I'm trying to use it on. So yeah, totally agree. Then let's talk about on a practical side again. You learned a lot around working with clients and refinement rounds and boundaries. What do you suggest when it comes to keeping those projects sort of, you know, streamlined and on track and everything?
I think this is actually so common, and I think also every designer feels like they failed to some extent when the project doesn't meet the deadline or the timeline, or something goes wrong, but we're dealing with humans, so something's always about to go wrong, right? Life happens. And when it comes to, I think, refinement rounds and client boundaries, what I found is most clients, you can trust them. I think there's this mutual respect for each other's time. And so it's very common at the start to feel like, oh, I trust them, they trust me. We don't need a contract. We don't need to be so nitty-gritty about what a refinement round is. They'll know. And that's fine when you're working on like 2K clients, 3K clients. When you start going past, I think the 5K mark, 6K mark, and especially the 10K mark, with the higher investment comes higher expectations and higher entitlement to your time. And you'll probably find that they will feel very entitled to extra rounds of refinements, maybe being a little bit more pushy as well. And I think this is then when having a contract in place is really, really important. What we've created is like one round of refinement, we send them a feedback form, and the person who's in charge of the project, who approves it, fills it out, does a Loom videos, all the different ways they can send feedback to us, Google Docs and whatnot. And when they submit it, that's it. We're not going to be doing any extra refinements that are not mentioned in that. On top of that, I realized that list can be quite extensive, and that list could actually take days to do. And so I then limited it to 4 hours only on that list, and for them to prioritize the top priorities of their refinement feedback. And if it goes over, then we can talk about adding on extra studio hours, adding on an extra studio day. But that way it actually gets them to think about, what is the most top priority here that I actually need changed? Because sometimes people are like, ooh, let's try this. And they're like, oh, jokes, I don't want that anymore, let's try this. And they're kind of just wasting your time because they have unlimited, or they feel like they have unlimited feedback rounds. So I think in that way, actually putting constraint on it, it's actually beneficial for everybody, because then they're more like highly likely to prioritize them. You're more likely to like get it done, and then the entire project is more likely to be launched into the world a lot faster.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Emily. This was so interesting.
You're welcome.
Lovely, right? Now, one point which Emily made, which I think is so true, is that your design work also needs to get to the place where it looks high-end in order to charge those high-end prices. It's not all just about the mindset and practicing saying, that'll be 10K please on practice calls. Now, I recently actually did a video where I did a makeover on a DIY website to show you what goes into really great design. So watch this video next and pay close attention to the design changes that I'm making and why. When you can manage this sort of thing yourself, then you'll be well on your way to those 10K projects.